I've never given a talk like this, so I'm very nervous, but I'm doing my best to project confidence by looking from person to person and staring over the tops of everybody's heads, which is key to public speaking, I've been told. I'm a cartoonist. I'm also an illustrator, infographic designer, and graphic recording artist. But you didn't wake up at the crack of dawn to look at infographics. You came here to look at
the animations.
This.
Hilary, if you look, use this monitor, then you speak in
yes,
our
yes,
direction,
yes.
and we can hear you much better.
Thank you. Here's a collection of logos from magazines and websites where I'm very proud to have work published. Just last month, I showed my cartoons in a gallery for the first time at Helmet Space in Leipzig. The exhibit was called 101 Cartoons. And there were actually 106 cartoons, but that doesn't sound as good.
Did someone count them?
I did. And throughout the exhibit, my intention was to explore what makes a cartoon funny, and also to look at what role written language plays, specifically when attempting to translate between English and German. I hope that you'll find some part of this relevant. I'd like to share some of these ideas with you. I hope that you'll find it either relevant to your own creative work, your own interest in language learning, or your own sense of humor. Okay. Lesson 1, chapter 1. And I promised no diagrams. Components of a cartoon. What have we got? Drawing. Without drawing, it's not a cartoon. Here's the thumbnail sketch. Here's the final art. Often, but not always, the drawing is accompanied by text, a caption, that is a title for the cartoon or a quotation from one of the characters. And combined with the drawing, this creates humor. That's a joke about Jeff Koons. So I'll talk about each of these components. Drawing is arguably its own language. Composition, direction, perspective, color, style, framing, facial expressions, body language, costume, setting, and more are used to tell a story. This is a cartoon from 2017, and I recently decided to redraw it, like so. Oh, can everybody in the back read the caption, or would you like me to read them out loud? Everybody can read it? Great. So I recently decided to redraw this 6-year-old cartoon like this. And I personally find the new version much funnier. I think the zoomed out shot of the new version and the slightly less cartoony drawing style makes the whole cartoon drier, and that to me makes it funnier. The added environment also adds more context because we can see sort of a hint of all the fun things these characters could be doing, if only it wasn't for email. When I posted this online, a friend mentioned that she thought the spotlight, the dramatic lighting also made it funnier, and I think she's right. I also put them in real office chairs instead of these balance ball chairs. And if I think back to 6 years ago, I think I probably chose to put them in the balance ball chairs because I didn't want to draw office chairs in perspective. Yeah. But some people will still prefer the earlier version. The characters are goofier, the drawing style is more playful, and the humor is a little bit more immediate. So drawing plus text equals humor. But like we mentioned, text can be optional. This cartoon is from February 2020, back when the last place that anybody wanted to be was on a cruise ship. And 3 years later, wow, it's really a relief to think that we look at this cartoon and COVID isn't necessarily the very first thing we think of. But the composition and the body language of the character still tells a pretty clear story about how they're feeling. And maybe you can relate to this person in some way, even without text. And in fact, I think that often there are cases where when you remove the text from a cartoon, it actually becomes funnier if the drawing itself tells enough of a story. Because without the text, the story is less specific and therefore more relatable. Here's an example. Okay. That might be kind of funny to some people. But how about this way? Without text, I think this is a much more powerful cartoon. This is no longer just about working from home. This is now about modern life, digital culture, or your personal existential crisis. I don't know. What's going on here?
Maintenance. Yeah. Good.
Ha ha! They walk among us. So on the flip side, somebody did get it. Somebody said it. But maybe not everybody immediately connected the dots and realized that this was a vegan vampire. So on the flip side, while removing text can sometimes make a cartoon more relatable by making it less specific, sometimes adding text can make the humor more immediate because we understand the joke more quickly. So we've looked at how a cartoon combines drawing and text to create humor, but what is humor? There are a lot of different types of humor in the world and a lot of different theories about what makes us laugh. Here are the ways that I personally play with humor. This is a cartoon from 2019. What makes this funny? This is funny to me in large part because it's relatable. I'm aware that this talk is being recorded and that it's going to be on the internet forever. And I appreciate that, but I will never be able to watch it or listen to it myself. What makes this one funny? To me, the humor here arises from an unexpected connection between two unrelated things. And that is witches decorating a gingerbread house and inbound marketing strategy. And I think we could abstract this idea a bit farther to say that humor arises from the unexpected, from things that shouldn't go together, something out of place. Recognizing something incongruous, something unvereinbar, that surprises us, and that alone is enough to kind of light up our brains, and that itself can be humorous. And then discovering a surprise connection between these two things that shouldn't be related, but they are, that resolution also lights up our brains, and that is humor. And I think this relates not just to the content, but also to the drawing style. Part of the reason I find humor in the drier version of this cartoon is because the drawing itself isn't as funny or goofy, which makes the humor of the caption more unexpected and more of a surprise. So if we can tell a story that does this, and is also relatable, then somebody's going to find it funny for one reason or another. Here's one more factor about humor. How long did it take you all to get this joke? Not very long. Because humor is also affected by timing and complexity. I have another moth cartoon to share with you. This is one of my most complicated jokes. Some people love this cartoon, and some people don't. This cartoon is simultaneously a parody of a book synopsis and a reference to Greek mythology, and it relies on the reader recognizing that this is a moth who flew too close to a light bulb and burnt its wing, and maybe it's also a joke about how we mythologize our lives. It's very complicated. Some people, myself included, enjoy cartoons like this because they feel like a puzzle. You have to stare at it. Oh, come on, let's go back. Let's go back. There we go. You have to stare at it a second before it clicks. And that little bit of delayed gratification can add to the humor. I think that when it takes just a second to understand the joke, sometimes I say, oh, haha, that's a clever cartoon, because it makes me feel clever for having understood it. But some people prefer cartoons that are more immediate. They might say that a clever and well-designed cartoon should hit you right away, like this one. There's nothing tedious about this. There's no searching for the punchline, not for more than a second. And it's definitely possible to enjoy both types of humor. I enjoy both. I enjoy reading both, creating both. But it really goes to show that there are multiple ways to tell a joke. And I would like to give credit here to my friend and fellow cartoonist, Adrienne Clark. A lot of these ideas about humor are influenced by ideas that she has presented and by conversations that we've had about our work. So far, I've only shown you cartoons in English. About 2.5 years ago, I started learning German because I had the idea that I wanted to move to Berlin. I got really excited about the language and found that I wanted to use it everywhere and started attempting to translate my cartoons. Last year, a few of my cartoons were published in German, and I'm really happy and proud about that. I still have a very long way to go before I'm fluent, but just the process of attempting to translate from English to German has taught me a lot about German, also about English, about language in general, about differences in culture, and it's caused me to think much more analytically about captions, about humor, and has led me, in fact, to some of the ideas that I just shared. Here's a list of 12 specific things I've learned from my attempts. Number 1, the perfect translation is always subjective. Oh my God, klingt meine Stimme wirklich so? Or, so klingt meine Stimme wirklich? Bin ich das echt? It may still sound better in English, and I have to give a lot of credit to my friends for being my editors. Thank you, Isabel, Nadine, Kev, and many others, including strangers. You've helped me a lot with my translations, and you've helped me partly because you all disagree. One person says, this sentence is not correct. Another person says, okay, now it's correct, but nobody talks like that. And then somebody says, yeah, okay, well now it's correct, and yeah, people talk like that, but why is it funny? The most literal translations do not always preserve the intended meaning or tone. This applies not only to cartoons, but to everyday interactions, emails. To show basic approval of something in American English, you might say, wow, that's amazing, this looks fantastic, this looks awesome, thank you so much. Which translates roughly to, das passt. Please listen carefully as our menu options have changed. When have you heard this sentence in German? Never. I don't know why. I don't know why this is only something you hear in English. So it was necessary to use a different sentence that would conjure the same association. Ihr Anruf ist uns sehr wichtig. Bitte bleiben Sie an der Leitung. Sometimes humor is lost in translation due to cultural differences or cultural references.
Can you read it?
Yes. Only a complete overhaul of our industrial civilization can slow forest fires. This is Smokey Bear. But if you didn't grow up in the US, you might not be familiar with Smokey Bear. He's an old advertising mascot for our national parks. And his most famous slogan is, only you can prevent forest fires. Sometimes humor is lost in translation due to language difference. Most of you are probably familiar with the concept of a cartoon caption contest. As part of my show in Leipzig, I invited gallery visitors to submit their own captions for 2 cartoons, including this one. And one of the best captions submitted was, nu ja, mal gucken. In English, this means something like, well, we'll see, but well, we'll see is somehow not nearly as funny. It loses something. Humor that plays on language or jargon itself can often not be translated. FYI, I've got a hard stop at 12 ET and we'll need to drop. Attempting to translate the untranslatable leads to new discoveries about culture and language. St. Stephen's Day is the day after Christmas. Nobody here has ever heard of it. I'm not sure if all US Americans have heard of it, but it's on our calendar. Discussing this with a studio mate, I learned about another phrase or concept that may fit even better. And that's sufficient in yarn. Some translations change the joke. I spy something blue. In German, I've come to find out this game uses a different phrase. And I think that adds another layer to the story.
Yeah.
In fact, some translations improve jokes. It's okay. That's better, right? As we all know, German is always longer. Oh, damn it, I never replied to Teresa's email. Tomorrow I must call Steve. What does Yara think of me? I went through a lot of versions of this, trying to get the right translation. You're right. German is always longer, but sometimes shorter. Das passt, oder?
Yeah.
There are regional, cultural, personal, and publication-specific differences in humor style and taste.
Come on.
For instance, I've noticed that magazines here publish a lot more cartoons in color, and also tend to use more word balloons than we do. I think our style is very influenced by the New Yorker, which only publishes in black and white, and the caption is always at the bottom. But I've now been experimenting more with using more color. Magazines here also publish a wider variety of drawing styles, often much more playful and looser, less dry. And so far my own drawing style remains pretty clean and dry, but yeah, mal gucken. Some ideas are best understood without translation. And I fear we are probably running close to our time. Thank you for listening, and happy to take questions.